Welcome back, guys. It's craft time. Let's go ahead and get started. In today's video, we are going to be making a St. Patrick's Day inspired wood round for a front door. I am going to be walking you through that process, but before we get started, I just wanted to say that I am trying to hit a subscriber goal of 5,000 by the end of March, and I need your help to do it. About 90% of my viewers are not subscribed to my channel, and that is it's just sad, because how are you going to know when the next video is uploaded? So I'm just reaching out to ask you that if you've been here a few times, you've watched a few videos, and you're enjoying what you see, to go ahead and hit the subscribe button and join us on our crafting journey. All right, let's jump into it. We're going to be using a 12-inch wood round that I have here. I have that linked in my affiliate links if you're interested. But we're going to be creating this sign. I had an order come in, and I did go, and I was planning to just go buy some embellishments and then put it all together. But when I was out shopping, I just couldn't find anything that really seemed to fit, or I didn't really have a vision, but nothing was speaking to me. So I decided to go ahead and make something of my own. So I came back, I picked out my heavy chipboard that I have from Cricut. It's the one that you see here. I just have some of this that I like to keep on hand for situations like this. I was hoping I could find it because I still haven't gotten to organize my craft room yet, but we'll get there one day. So I decided to go on to Cricut Design Space and just kind of scroll through their pre-made images and see if there was anything that I could find before I started to try to create my own design. So I was able to just type in shamrock and kind of go through, and what I decided to do was just pick a shamrock outline that I liked, and then also go through and find one, it's like the outline of a shamrock and it says Lucky, and I'm going to pull both of those into my file. I'm going to start by just using a 12-inch circle to size everything appropriately, and I'm just going to layer the two. So I'm going to have it cut out the outline of the shamrock and the outline of the one that says Lucky, because I've kind of laid them on top of each other and saw how I wanted them to lay, or the sizes that I need for both. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut those out. So what you're gonna need is a Cricut maker and a knife blade, and that's going to be able to cut it through. It always suggests that you calibrate your knife blade. I did go ahead and do that. And then I like to use the heavy stick mat and some masking tape just to make sure everything stays in place. The masking tape will peel right off without doing any damage, so you don't need to worry about that. And the knife blade will cut right through. So I'm just going to prep the mat and go ahead and send that through, just making sure I chose the right material, which this one is the 2mm. So once that starts to cut, I'm going to come back and work on my round. Make sure you give yourself plenty of time if you've not worked with chipboard before, because it does take a long time to cut out, because it does multiple passes, probably like 20 something passes. For me, I like to kind of keep an eye on it. I think I stopped both of these pieces at 19 passes. So while that's going through, I'm going to come over and start painting my wood sign. I'm just going to paint the entire thing white. That way I have a nice blank slate to go from. And I'm going to paint the front and the back just with some acrylic apple barrel white paint. And I believe this paint happens to be matte. It won't matter either way. So while that's painting and drying, I'm just going to keep checking in on my chipboard, making sure things are cutting smoothly, that it's, you know, hitting the same spots every time. There's nothing kind of wonky going on. And if you do want to stop it, like I said, I stopped mine at 19 passes. You just hit the pause button and let it kind of roll out, but do not fully unload it. So what I like to do is keep it loaded in, because if you take it out and it's not ready, if you put it back in, you can't guarantee that it's going to cut in the exact spots that it needs to. So I just leave it loaded in, and I just kind of lift the end and kind of like put my fingers underneath and bend it a little to see if that image starts to pop out. That kind of gives me an idea on whether it is cut all the way through or not, and then I'm going to unload it. If there's any areas where maybe it didn't cut all the way through, and if you want to avoid this, just leave it for the recommended time. However, for my specific machine, I've kind of learned that it kind of starts cutting down to my mat if I leave it the full length of time that it suggests. So I'm just going to pull that off, and I'm sorry I was doing this with one hand, so it was kind of difficult, but I'm just gonna pull the tape off, and then you're just gonna pop out your images. If there's anything, like there's like just this tiny bit left on there, I just use my little X-Acto knife or like Cricut tool and cut that off, just following the curve of the line of whatever the image is, and then I can pop it out and have it ready to go. So again, while those are all cutting, because this is a process, I'm letting those finish up, and I'm going to start in on decorating my sign. What I want to do here is just make some stripes. So I'm going to use some painter's tape and kind of space out the stripes how I would like them. So for me, I'm wanting to do use the small and the big of the painter's tape, just to give a little bit of a like different dimension of the stripes. And I'm just going to place the tape down where I want it to go, and then place my next piece of tape. So I'm going to start with the little piece as my gap, use the big piece and line it up right next to that tape, not overlapping it. And then I'm able to put my next piece of skinny tape, pull that bigger piece and move it down, just to keep it as a good spacer, because that is going to be the area that I paint. So I'm just using the skinny tape to mark off the places that I don't want, and the big tape as my spacer, just moving it down the sign to make sure it's evenly spaced and gapped all the way through. And to line this up and make sure it was straight, I just used the 2 holes that are at the top of this to keep me on track and make sure everything is lined up properly. I'm going to be using some gold metallic paints for this. I kind of ended up mixing 2 of the ones that I have, and I don't know the names of them. Sorry, I just have a tub full of just random paints, and I just picked out what I needed. So I'm using some of that here. The one was too bright and the other was too dark, so I did mix them together, and I just painted them on. I think I did 2 layers, letting it dry completely in between the 2. I did use my heat gun to speed that along a little. Once that was painted on, I went ahead and peeled off those strips in the middle, and all I'm doing is taking my heat gun and kind of heating that tape up a little bit, kind of to release it, and peeling that off, and it's leaving beautiful, crisp, clean lines. If you want to ensure that no paint gets under, because I'm using painter's tape, I wasn't worried about it, but if you're worried about any bleeding, you can go back in with your base coat prior to whatever color you're using, and or a like Mod Podge or clear sealant, just to make sure that no bleeding will actually show up. But again, with the painter's tape, I was not really concerned with that. So once that was done, I was ready to focus back in on the chipboard, and we're going to be painting this up. So once those were all done, again, I just removed all the masking tapes in the areas that I didn't want, and then I'm gonna paint both of them with some white acrylic paint, just because I want, when I do go to paint them whatever colors I want to make sure that those colors are nice and true. And to do that, putting a layer of white paint down will definitely brighten it up and make that color more true to its like original color. So I'm going to start with that, paint them white, let them dry, and then I'm going to start painting them. So for the actual shamrock, I'm going to be painting them green, and for the lucky and overlapping shamrock, I'm going to be using the same gold that I used on the background. So I just painted that up. I think I did 2 coats of the gold on the lucky part, and then I set that aside to dry, and then I was ready to paint the shamrock. For this, I'm using 2 different colors of green just to give it some dimension, and I'm just going to paint it up, and then after that kind of play with the shape and kind of give it a little bit of more dimension when I'm painting it. So following those curves, adding in the little like veins that would be in there, and then just highlighting and adding some darker spots for shadows just to give it a little bit more dimension, and then I'm gonna let that dry. Once that's dry, I'm going to be assembling this entire piece. So I will say, going back, if I were going to do this again once it was all said and done, I probably would have done either like a green really thin like trace line on each of the stripes, like where they meet, and or around the outside, just to kind of, I don't know, bring it fully together. I really love this sign the way it is, but after looking at pictures again, I think I would add a little bit of that green back in just to kind of, I don't know, finish it off. So anyway, we're gonna move forward and we're gonna attach this together. Now I have done the super glue and hot glue system together to where you do the super glue for the long term and the hot glue for the short term to make sure it sticks. and that you can keep moving forward, and that works just fine. However, I am using the Starbond glue today. It's a CA super glue, and it is absolutely amazing. It has an accelerator, and I will never go back. If you've watched any of my videos, these past few ones, is when I started using it, and I will talk it up every time because it saves me so much time, and time is money. I'm a busy lady and I have things to do and I don't have time for glue to dry. So that's what I'm going to be using today. I do have this in my affiliate links. I will say it's a little bit more expensive, but it's worth it. Like I've already done many projects with it. And every time I've not had any trouble with it, like the tip gluing shut or anything. It does come with these smaller like needle point tips for very fine defined areas that you might need to glue, and it comes with multiple tips. In case it does glue shut, you have the ability to put a fresh tip on there. So fantastic. Like I said, it comes with an accelerator, which is like a spray, and I will walk you through how all of this works. So for me, 100% worth the money. And when I say affiliate links, I'm not affiliated with this product at all. However, I do have it linked through my Amazon. So you can find that in the description below, but we're going to start gluing this together. So I'm just going to kind of lay it out to make sure everything looks the way I want it to. Make some marks with a pencil so I know where to put the shamrock back onto this, and we're gonna glue it down. So what you want to do is put your glue on one side. I like to put it on the item that I'm like adding to the surface. So go ahead and use my shamrock. I've put all of the glue on there. I'm using a medium thickness on this one. It does get a little runny, so you don't want to get too close to the edge. I did at one point and got it all over my hands, so that's really cool. Anyway, so you put your glue on one side, you use the accelerator spray on the other, and you just spray the surface. Don't worry if you overspray in an area that you don't want it to be. It doesn't leave any residue. So what you're going to do is just secure it down. You do want to be pretty precise because you have seconds, and I mean literal seconds, to get this in place before it sticks. I'm going to give you like full speed here, like normal speed. I'm not going to speed this up because I want you to see how fast this stuff sets. And it's a permanent hold. It's amazing. And I am just going to hype it up until y'all listen because it is such a time saver and I've really been enjoying using this product. So I'm going to go ahead and just push it down. I'm going to put some heavy stuff on here to help me hold all of the points down so they're nice and secure on there because it does dry so fast. I want to make sure there's pressure everywhere so that it can set fully. Take that back off and we're ready to place the next layer. So for these, I'm going to kind of pre-lay them out again to where I think it looks good. Use a pencil to kind of give me an idea of where to go, and we're going to do the same process over again. We're going to put the glue on the item that we want to stick. So I'm going to use the gold piece, put my glue on there, and then spray the section I'm putting it on, adhere it down, make sure I'm pressing in and making sure it's nice and secure, and moving on. From there, we are ready to just seal it up with some polyacrylic. So I'm going to just paint this on. Typically, I would paint every individual item, glue it together, and then go from there, but just felt like it would be easier this time around as one full piece. So I'm just going to get into all these cracks and crevices the best I can. I like to do this just to make sure I have like a good solid coat with that brush. Before I move forward, I do know that this particular sign is going on a covered porch, so it's not as big of a deal, but I don't like to send my items out without knowing that I have done everything I can to make them last as long as they can. So once that's dry, I'm going to go ahead and hit with some 2X Rust-Oleum clear, and I'm going to use the satin this time. So I love my 2X Rust-Oleum. You guys know this. If you've watched any of my videos, it's every single time because it's reliable, it covers really well, and it leaves a beautiful finish. So I usually use matte, but for this one with that gold, we want it to be nice and shiny. So I am going to be using the satin today. I'm going to let that dry. I did do 2 coats on either side, and we're going to go ahead and make the bow. For the bow, I'm just grabbing a lot of the different ribbons that I have on hand. That would go well with this sign. I think I have 4 different greens here, a few different golds. All we're going to do is cut those down to the length that we want them to, and we're going to do a messy bow. So we're just going to cross them over each other after we get them all cut, and again, the ends, however you want to cut those. I'm going to do the little triangle cutout. Sometimes on the smaller ones, I like to just do a diagonal. So I'm just going to cut those to however I want them to go. cross them over each other, and then I'm going to cut the wire off of the green burlap one. That one's just a little bit thicker than I wanted it to be for the placement in the line of the ribbon. So I'm going to cut those off, and I'm going to reuse those with the bow as well. So you're just going to pinch it in the middle and tie it around. Now you have options here. I'm going to use that cut off wire from the ribbon I just cut off. You can use floral wire, you can use a string, you can use a small zip tie, which honestly is probably the easiest. I do have those around here somewhere, but again, still haven't gotten around to organizing my room because life. So I'm going to use one of those wires that I just cut off, wrap it around in the cinch center, and just slowly keep cinching it down as I kind of move things around until it's in place. And then I'm going to use some hot glue to kind of secure that because I didn't feel like it had the best hold. So I'm just going to put a little hot glue on there, put it down, and then I did end up using a couple of those other wires that I cut off. I cut them down and put them underneath just to add a little bit more texture to this bow. And then we're just gonna wire it onto the string that will be attached to the hanger. So I'm just using some white twine here. I'm just gonna twist that bow right on, and we are done with this sign. This was a fairly quick. Like I said, it still takes a couple hours. The chipboard, it works really well, and if you seal it really well, it will hold up in the weather. But again, you have to make sure you seal it really good. That's why I doubled up with the polyacrylic and then the Rust-Oleum spray paint. That way it has an outdoor seal on it. I really like the texture and the depth in this picture. I'm really glad that I didn't find the embellishments that I went out searching for, because I do love taking some designs and kind of making them my own. So I'm very happy with this sign. The customer was very happy with this sign, and I would love to know what you think about it in the comments below. So I'm going to go ahead and call it quits on this. I'm going to take you in for a closer look, and I'll see you next time.